And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream from the Elephant in the Room. I am one of your co-hosts, Krys Divine. I'm here with, I'm getting feedback. Sorry about that. Welcome back to another live stream from the Elephant in the Room.
What's that delay?
Co-host,
Oh no.
I'm here.
Ruh-roh.
Sorry, guys.
That's not my fault. Usually it's my fault.
What's it playing on? What do you guys hear that?
I have no idea.
That's so weird. Sorry, everyone.
It wasn't playing in here. I don't know where that was coming from. I don't know.
Was it playing on yours, Ariel? It played on yours?
The delay? I don't know where it came from.
Okay. Anyways, sorry, guys. Can you hear me? Oh, I think it's Ariel.
Oh, did she have to log out and re-log in?
Yeah, I think that may be what's going on. All right, guys. So sorry about that. That was strange. Hopefully you can hear us. So welcome back to another episode of The Elephant in the Room. Looks like Ariel got booted out, but hopefully she can log back in. She is, of course, my amazing co-host. And tonight we have a special episode with John Strader, who is joining us. John, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I really am. And if I seem a little nervous, it's because I'm very nervous.
That's okay. No need to be nervous. I know I get nervous every time. I told my daughter today, why do I still get nervous? And she's like, because you're talking to people. So,
people are looking at you. They're judging you.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a weird feeling, but don't worry about it. It's just going to be a casual conversation. And hopefully we can just kind of dig in and talk a little bit about what it was like to go to Contact in the Desert this year. I think for both of us, it was our first. Hey, welcome back.
Thanks.
Okay.
She's back. Yeah, it was definitely my first time. I had never been. I remember everyone talking about last year, and I felt so left out. Everyone was talking about all the UFO Twitter meetups. Oh, I saw this person. Oh, I saw this person. Oh, it was so fun. We were hanging out at the pool, and I was like, oh, I'm going next year. I don't care. I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ariel, we missed you out there, Ariel. Where were you?
I know. So what happened with me was I actually spoke with the executive producer of Contact in the Desert. He spoke with me on the phone and he personally invited me to come, which was that was amazing. That was like an amazing moment for me. But it was kind of twofold for me. The first part was financial constraints. I'm from Nebraska, and taking a plane flight out to California is it's expensive. Yeah. It is very expensive. Yeah. And the other part is my daughter's dance recital was that weekend, which I didn't know when I originally was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to swing this. And then a few weeks later, I found out that it was my daughter's dance recital. So that kind of was like, okay, this is a sign. This isn't meant for me this year. But I really hope to make it happen next year because like you said, it's such an amazing opportunity to connect with so many people in person.
It was great. I mean, I can't even explain how exactly that. Like, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. And it was just from the second I landed, I mean, we got there really, really late on Wednesday night. And so I was kind of walking around. It was all quiet, and I was just looking in the rooms and looking at the layout and trying to kind of visualize what it's going to be like. And Thursday, that's just when it all started kind of happening, when people started funneling in. And then I realized, I was like, oh, wow, like this isn't like, because a lot of times you are really separated from the presenters and stuff. And they're really kind of in their green room in their world. And they're not just out hanging out with everyone and talking. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing on Thursday, that it was like immediately apparent that everyone's just in that main room, that what I call the floor. Right. And right there in the floor, in the bar area, whatever, and the tables were all around. There was high sort of bar tables, more like lounge sitting areas. And it just started happening. So that was when I was like, oh, okay, this is amazing. This
Mm-hmm.
is the place to be right here. And I parked myself at what I called the main table with Steve Bassett, and then that was my like hang.
Right
I
down
just
there.
stayed in the pocket, you know.
So your daughter came with you?
Oh my gosh. Yes, let me tell you. Okay, so my youngest daughter graduated from high school, and I was getting ready to go. And now she knows all about UFO Twitter. She listens to me in spaces. She recognizes people's voices. She does like impressions of people on Twitter. She's hilarious. And but so you know, I'm a cool dad. I'll pat myself on the back. And I told her, I said, babe, look, you can just stay here at the house. You can have the house for the 5 days I'm gone. Invite your friends. You can have parties, whatever. Just don't trash the place and don't get us in trouble in the neighborhood. And if there's any underage drink, everyone's drinking it. You just stay at the house. No one leaves. Like just be cool. Keep it together. You don't have to sneak a party. You can just hang out and have the house.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could go with Dad to contact. You can go hang out with all the weird UFO people. It wasn't. She just went, I want to go to contact. And I was like, wait, what? Really? I thought for sure you were going to be like, no, I'm staying and party. And it was like, no, I want to go. And so then I said, well, look at the schedule, decide what you're interested in, and I'll buy you some wristbands. So she decided to, choose her things. And I got her a couple wristbands. She's like, well, I want to take Saturday off. I want to do the spa. I want to hang around the pool. I'm like, oh, that's fine. I go, babe, whatever you want. So she did Friday and Saturday. But the thing that kind of started it for her and for me was on Thursday, they had these free sort of UFO 101s. And I should have got my schedule because it's downstairs. Maybe you guys can pull it up. But, so they had a whole list of kind of like, beginner UFO classes that were free, and each one was a different modality. And the first one was Paul Hynek doing UFO'S 101. So I kept saying, babe, you got to go to UFO'S 101, and Paul Hynek will be amazing, blah, blah, blah. She's like, Dad, I don't want to go by myself. And I'm like, honey, I don't want to go hear UFO'S 101. I'm like, yeah, it's like kindergarten. I'm like, PhD. I'm like, come on, don't make me. She's like, Dad, I need you to go. So I was like, okay, I'll go sit through UFO'S 101. And I'll tell you, thank God I did, because Paul Hynek put on a show. He is so entertaining, and he was so funny. And I mean, I am like out and out laughing out loud, so loud. I'm like heckling, I'm saying stuff. And like, he's like, oh, it sounds like we've got a Navy guy in the house. And was like, and so I walked out of that first one going, wow, Paul Hynek is the man. Like, I had never seen him live. And that sort of started my love affair with Paul that we'll talk about later on. But that was sort of the intro. That was sort of the intro. And I was just like, you're amazing. I mean, I was blown away by his first presentation, and he did many over the weekend. So yeah, it was great. And she was a star, I will say.
Aww. Well, I have my awkward interaction story with Paul Hynek as well. So
do tell.
Yours was awkward, but mine was. It was just one of those moments. I was in the registration room, so it was Wednesday, and it was really early. We got there like midday, and there was not very many people around. And he walked up, and I just looked at him, and I'm like, "You're Paul Hynek. You follow me on Twitter. I don't know why."
My gosh, that
you
is
follow me.
I'm so excited. So awkward, and I didn't know what else to say, and I just walked away.
Oh my God.
So bad.
Oh my gosh. That would have been me. That would have been me with Richard Dolan. I mean, I would have flipped out. I would have flipped out. Okay, so tell about the video that you got for me.
Okay, are you ready for that? Because that was one of my top 3 moments of the weekend. And let me find it here.
Oh my gosh.
And I love it because the reality of the story is that Ariel totally has him.
There we go.
Are we on?
You're on.
Hi, Ariel. Nice to meet you. I'm Richard, and I inscribed this book for you. I do hope you enjoy it, and catch you around.
She makes
Oh,
him
it's like
blush.
a cameo. You got a Richard Dolan cameo. That's awesome.
I know.
She makes him blush. I love it. Okay, you got to watch that one more time. I'm sorry. You just
Look, he is blushing.
he is blushing. You
He's
guys.
like, I'm not supposed to be flirting with this Ariel woman in front of my
Hi,
wife,
Ariel.
Tracy.
Nice to meet you. I'm Richard, and I inscribed this book for you. I do hope you enjoy it, and catch you around.
Oh my God, that is great. I remember, Ariel, when Dolan followed you and you were so excited, like Richard Dolan followed you, and I was so jealous. I'm like, oh.
I have learned so much from him, and he is that person for me in the UFO community that I've always said, don't put people on pedestals. Don't do it. You will be let down. But I literally cannot help it with this man. I cannot help it. And when Krys sent that to me, I literally could not sleep that night. I was so excited. I was like, his face is so perfect. His voice is so perfect. His knowledge is so perfect. Everything about him is perfect.
But what's even more perfect about the story, the best part of the story is that I did not ask him to do this. So it was one of the end of the days. I hadn't been over to his table yet. I walked over and he was with oh my gosh, the big TikToker guy. I forget his name every time.
I don't TikTok, so I don't know.
Yeah, anyways, he's got a YouTube channel. I have pictures with him. I'll show you later. But anyway, okay. He was with him, and it was like the last person, and you could tell he was trying to leave. And so I walked up to the guy and I asked if the guy selling the books, if he had any books, and he said yes. And I was like, do you think I could get him to just sign this one more book? And he's like, yeah. So he did. So he asked him to sign it. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, to bother you. I know you're on your way out, but this is for my podcast co-host, Ariel, and she absolutely loves you. And he's the one that offered. He's like, would you like me to make a video? I was like, oh my gosh.
And to be clear for everyone, he does not know who I am. Like he does not know.
No, he doesn't know Ariel.
No, he does not know who I am. He would never be able to pick me out of a crowd. He was literally just doing this to be nice, and he just has no clue how much he made my day, and how literally I could not sleep. I was so excited. It was actually, I was almost mad that I checked at like 10:30 at night and saw it, because then I was like, if I just would have gone to bed and seen it in the morning, but now I'm not going to get any sleep.
Let me tell you, the thing about Richard is that he is so approachable. I mean, he stays there and he just Tracy is literally trying to drag him out all the time because he's always on a schedule. He's got to be here. He's got to be there. He's running around and everyone wants a piece of him. But he always just shares his time. He's happy to talk to everyone. He's never a jerk about it. He never acts like, I'm UFO celebrity, stay away from me. I mean, he just loves those interactions with his fans. And, I had interacted with him before and I had to kind of remind him of who I was. And I have pictures of that where he was like, wait a minute. Oh, I remember you now. And so then we started talking. So I kind of was talking to him off and on all weekend long, trying to, get him in the space, trying to get him on the Spaces broadcast, which we haven't even really talked about yet. But, he's always that way. He's just the nicest guy. And another story about my daughter is, so we're about 2 hours outside of Albuquerque on our way there. And she goes, Dad, did you bring your books by Richard Dolan for him to sign it? And I went, oh, no. And I have like all of his books, and I would have my plan was to bring them and have him sign them all. Yeah. And she was like, Dad, you are so dumb. What were you? And she chastised me because I forgot all of my books, and he would have signed them all. And I would have been like, yes. And I just messed up. And she definitely was like, Dad, how could you do that? So I
Well-
ended up buying a book I already had to have him sign it.
Just so he
And
could
then
sign
I'll
it.
just give it to as a gift to somebody else. But I was like, oh, dang it, I got to get at least one book signed. So,
Yeah.
but that is
It's just
that's awesome.
it's so wonderful to hear that he is great in real life, because you really just do hope that, you know, someone who is kind of, you know, without knowing, mentored you and just inspired you, you hope that they're as great in person as, you know, you make them out to be in your head.
Well, here's a little bit of trivia about John Strader. Richard Dolan is the only reason I am on UFO Twitter. The only reason. And it's because, you know, I mean, the history of me, and we can't go into it, but like I've been studying this since I was 18.
Mm.
And but I was always very like back in the background. I did not want to like, you know, push forward or anything. And then when 2017 happened, I'm like, oh my gosh, like stuff is happening. And I had been watching his podcast, but all these other podcasts start popping up, right? Everybody who are big now, they were all brand newbies then. And
Right.
I was kind of like a jerk. I was kind of cocky. I'm like, who are these people? They don't know anything. They're interviewing all these great names, but they literally don't even know what to ask in the beginning. Like everyone now, they're all very deep. But at the beginning, most of these podcasters didn't know anything. And they're like, is it real? Tell me everything, Mr. Elizondo. And so, but I kept watching Dolan, having people on, and all of the bigger ones that had been around for a while, they were always reporting on, oh yeah, this happened on UFO Twitter, and this happened on UFO Twitter, and this dropped here, and the Wilson David knows, and everything was always happening. And I had never been out of the loop, right? In UFO world. I was like plugged in. And I'm like, the last thing in the world I want to do is be on Twitter. I was like, oh God, I do not want to be on Twitter, but I am like getting everything third or fourth hand knowledge. And I'm like, I can't take it. I'm like, I'm out of the loop. And so I was like, darn it, I'm joining Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's how this all started, because I was like, Richard Dolan is learning everything from UFO Twitter. I guess I got to get on there. So it's all your fault, Richard.
Well, and it's interesting because I have a similar story. I don't know. Do you know who Ryan Sprague is?
Yes.
Somewhere in the Skies. Yeah, I was a big fan of his podcast, and he was always talking about UFO Twitter, UFO Twitter, UFO Twitter. And, you know, and so finally I was like, I've got to see what this is about. I've got to get on. Ryan is always talking about UFO Twitter. I've got to see what this is all about. And so, yeah, the rest is history after I joined and kind of got.
I remember when you showed up. I remember when you showed up and you were just like wide-eyed, like total newbie, like, oh my gosh, what's going on in here, people? Like, you know, just kind of like feeling it out, you know, like really quick. And then you
and everyone was like, who is this chick? I got like, she's a hybrid. She is a disinformation agent. She is a Russian honeypot. I
remember that. You were like, what is it? And I'm like, it's the eyes, Ariel. Everyone sees the big eyes. Like, you're a hybrid. And I totally remember that. I remember because you and I hooked up pretty quickly, and we were talking about our daughters and talking about parenthood and stuff. And so we like connected really quickly. And I'm like, okay, I love this woman, so I'm gonna be protective of her whenever anyone was being weirdo, because there's plenty of weirdos.
I can't believe you went through that. That's insane.
I love that you remember that, because it's like you never know what other people like remember. And so I always feel like, oh, no, nobody's going to remember me. Nobody's going to remember that interaction. I'm sure they forgot. And so the fact that you remember that, that just makes my day.
Well, like the elephant in the room, like an elephant, I kind of never forget. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes I wish I could forget things, but unfortunately for me, it sort of sears in there and I can't. So yes, I remember very well. And I remember when you were like, I don't understand why everyone's calling me a hybrid and this and that. And I was just like, because I don't even think you really knew too much about hybrids or that whole sort of thing. And you're like, what does this mean? I'm like,
well, I think it's funny that they thought you were a Russian honeypot as a married Christian woman on Twitter.
I know.
Well,
disinformation agent.
Story.
They thought it was all just a cover story. At one point, I became so frustrated that I sent a screenshot of my Nebraska teaching license to this random guy because I was like, well, I mean, anyone can access it. And I blotted out my last name, but I was like, look, like I have a teaching certificate for the state of Nebraska. I am who I say I am. And of course, then the guy was just like, well, I didn't really like mean it.
Yeah, it's like backpedaling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
for
John,
sure.
talk a little bit about how you ended up streaming spaces while at Contact in the Desert.
Okay.
Because that was like totally a new thing for them, and you got an official badge, so that they would allow you to stream.
Tell us the origin story there.
All right, I'll share pictures. I can't talk and share. I'm so discombobulated by all this. Like, just for everyone in the audience who's listening, and Logan Black, who sent me. I mean, I had all these audio clips, but we were having a hard time trying to hear them, and it was switching back and forth, and it was so clunky, and I was just like stressing out, and we were like 5 minutes away, and I'm like, so I kind of had to just scrap it all and be like, okay, let's just talk, and I'll share pictures when I get around to it, and I'll just go through the pictures. But yeah, I'll tell you the story. So that first morning, like I said, we do the Paul Hynek thing, right? And it's amazing. Then I come back out with my daughter, and at this point, there's still no buffet on Thursday, right? So I don't have any meal tickets. So I'm like, well, let's just, and I see Steve Bassett sitting at what I call the main table. And I'm like, oh my God, there's Steve Bassett. And the table's empty. He's just sitting there by himself with his laptop, typing away and getting ready for all the presentations he's got to do. And he was also, like MC and doing the introductions to a lot of them. So he was very busy. But he's sitting there and he was just there by himself. And like most people weren't like approaching him because he looked really busy. And I'm like, I'm approaching. So I went and sat right across from him, and I just sat down, and my daughter sits down, and then we start ordering some food, and we're just hanging out. And then I start talking with him and checking in a little bit. And then I'm looking towards what I call the Titanic stairs. And I have pictures of it, but when you're down there on the floor, it's kind of like the ground floor. You actually walk into it on an upper floor. And so there's these dual staircases that come around like this, and they're all wood. It's all pretty. So it kind of like anyone walking down is like, you could just see them. So I'm like, this is the perfect location. I can see anyone coming down. I've got a view of the whole floor. I'm here with Steve Bassett. This is great. And so because Bassett's there, he's kind of like a gravitational well, and everything starts kind of orbiting around that table, right? So as we're at the table, and I should just, okay, let me share. I'm going to share and I'm going to show you some stuff here while I do that, because I have a folder called the main table. So let me see if I can share that.
And I'm going to pop up some comments in the meantime. Everybody's commenting, people.
Okay. Yeah.
Matt, and they're also talking about how fun the parties were.
I didn't get to go to, and no one invited me to any parties. I heard about all the parties.
It was the big parties, the official parties.
I have a good story about what. Okay, so how do we share this screen? And
I'm ready. Are you ready? You want to pop up the picture and I'll.
Yeah, like it's this main table, and then I'll just start telling you the stories of them, because this is kind of.
Click on the picture.
I have to click on a picture.
Well, so it fills the screen.
Okay. Yep. I've got. Well, do I have to do it over here?
No. Here you go.
There you go.
All right, hold on. So I did fill it. How do I? No. Okay. That's why. All right. So when I click on it, it's going main screen here. It's going separate image. So that's not quite working. So, all right. So I'll just do it this way. Okay. So this is the main table here. And you can see right there on the right, you have the African-American man. That is Todd Collins. He was a NASA he was doing a presentation about safe aerospace and stuff. And that's Kent right next to him. That's Aussie Kent, the bald guy. Yeah. And so here we are hanging out with Todd. And so this is the main table. Everyone was just coming up and hanging out at the table. So then here's Mello. We have Mello and you can you see my cursor?
Kent.
Okay. Yeah. So there's Kent. And then here's Bassett right across from me. And a lady's showing him some artwork. Here's the Hynek brothers. So like I said, so I'm sitting at that main table, and then everyone just starts coming up and hanging out at this table. And so both Hynek brothers come up and they start hanging out. And then like the lady, the waitress brings my burger to Paul Hynek. She thought I was Paul, brings it to him. And he's like, this isn't my burger. And it's sitting over there for a minute. And then she goes, oh, wait, it's this guy. And then she brings it back over to me. So then Paul starts trolling me because I had already told him, I was like, hey, man, I just wanted to tell you your intro to 101. I told him about my daughter. I told him the story I just told you. And I'm like, dude, that was so amazing. It was hysterical. That was great. And I did not want to go. I'm like, I just told her, I said, look, I didn't want to go to UFO'S 101. I'm like, ugh. But I'm like, dude, I'm so glad I did. You were hysterical. He's like, well, here's my brother Joel. And I'm like, oh my God. So we were talking and they were working on their presentation that's going to be like the next day or the next day. This is still Thursday. And so they were sitting there. And then so Paul starts being like, well, John, I need to let you know I put a little something extra in your burger. And I'm like, extra? What do you mean? Well, he's Mr. DMT. So he kept like telling me that he had spiked my burger with DMT and I'm going to start flying anytime. And I'm like, what? So I start eating the burger and I'm like, woo. And we're having all this fun. And then the other thing that was hilarious during that is that the burger was called Skyfire Burger, which of course Chupacabra and Red Panda have Skyfire News. So I was like, oh, this is fun. So I start doing posting from this table. I'm like, I do a whole Skyfire News. I'm like, oh, you guys are going to be delicious. And I'm like, oh, that didn't sound right. So I'm starting to have fun. I'm starting to post stuff, you know. I'm taking pictures because I have my camera and my phone. So I'm taking pictures with my real camera and my phone. And I'm starting to talk to people. Everyone's coming up to the table. So you have Kent here with Steve Bassett. And then here's a good picture over here of sort of the table. My daughter's kind of here. And you have Steve. You look at Kent. He's getting right in. And you have the Hyneks down here. And so everyone's kind of just hanging out. And this table is sort of where it's happening. So then you have Todd over here. There's the Titanic staircase, if you can see that. And so you have the Titanic stairs that come down. So I'm in a prime location. And it's still early. There's still so many people have not arrived. So here I am talking with Paul. You know, we're hanging out. Now, these are the two Kents. People were getting confused. This person is one of my oldest friends, Kent. And then this is Aussie Kent. And so I kept talking about Kent all weekend, and people didn't know which Kent I was ever talking about. This is my Kent, and this was Aussie Kent, our Kent. So it was a little confusing. You don't normally have two Kents.
Like, no, that's kind of a unique name.
Really unusual.
Yes. And so then, of course, who shows up at the table? Jimmy Church, right?
Yeah.
So the church man is hanging out at the table, and he's ordering food. So now I'm like, you know, all the kings are here. I'm sitting at the king's table. This is amazing. I'm like, this is awesome. So we're hanging out. Here's Kent with Mr. Hynek. Here's Kent talking him up. You know, I'm telling you, Kent was on fire. He was loving it. We were getting along. He's hanging out with me and the other Kent, my daughter. We're having a great old time. He's talking to all the celebs. He's like, Strader, you got the room here. This is great, mate. And so we're having fun. Here's Kent talking to Hynek, you know, at the main table. And okay, so then this is when I start getting like this here is Leela Hutchinson, who is an amazing woman. She was not a presenter, but she is the woman who was the first person to her team go into the crystal caves in Mexico, those giant crystals, you know what I mean? Like epic crystals and all that kind of stuff. Like it's incredible. She's this incredible woman. So I meet her because she knows Jimmy, she knows Bassett. And so Steve introduces me to her. So this is where, okay, so I'll stop here for a second. I want to find a better picture of her in a second, but this is where it kind of starts. So this table is happening. And I am just talking about spaces. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Steve, we've talked many times in spaces. I love that you come in there. And so we're talking about that. And he's like, oh, you know, he's kind of pretending he remembers me. Of course he doesn't. He's like, oh, yeah, I remember. Sure. I'm like, it's okay. I know you don't remember me. You know, but it's cool. It's all good, Mr. Bassett. You don't have to pretend. So we're just having fun. So, you know, I'm a jokester. So I'm kind of roasting. We're having fun. And they're watching me and my friends and my daughter and Kent. And we're all talking about UFO, you know, thing. And so I'm like, well, hey, I look down at the phone and I don't remember who. You know, there's always a space going on. And so I pop in and I just start talking in the space. I'm like, hey, guys, I'm here at Contact. And I'm sitting at the table with Steve Bassett, and this is amazing. And I'm looking around, and I'm just sort of telling everyone who's at the table, and everyone's like jonesing. They're like, oh my God, well, you should try to get them on here or whatever. And I go, oh, come on. I'm not going to just walk up and start ramming phones in people's mouths. But I'm like, Steve Bassett's here. He knows Spaces. Let me try it. So I have a picture of here somewhere, and I'll pull. I think it's on the Steve Bassett folder. I have folders for everybody. And so I said, Steve, you got a minute? You want to pop into the space and tell everyone what you're doing here in Contact? And he's like, sure. So I hand him my phone, and he pops into the space, and he's just talking on my phone, and he's telling kind of what he's doing in Contact, and he's talking about, you know, his presentations and what he's doing and whatever. And he talks about 5 minutes and hands me back the phone. I'm like, dude, that was awesome. Thanks, man. And everyone on the space is all happy. And then Leela Hutchinson is there. And she's like, what are Spaces? What was that? What was he doing? Who was he talking to? I started explaining to her. And I didn't know who she was. And so I'm like, well, I'm showing her kind of what it is and this and that. And I'm like, well, hi, I'm John. And so now she introduces herself to me. And I'm like, so what are you presenting? You know, everyone here, you know, what's your deal? You know, I'm just like, what's your plan? Who are you? So she starts telling me her story. And I'm like, whoa, stop. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, I'm blown away, but just stop right now. I go, do you mind telling the people in the Spaces the story, and I'll listen in, and you can tell the whole story. I want to hear it, but these people will go crazy for it. She's like, well, okay. So I hand her the phone, and then she starts telling her story to the space. And I forget who was hosting, probably Logan. I don't remember. So whoever that was, I'm sorry, I don't remember on Thursday. But so she stays on for like 20, 30 minutes and tells this whole story. I've got my main camera. I'm zoomed in. And I tried to play that for you guys earlier. That was that chaotic, loud sound in the room because it's starting to fill up in there now. But I just filmed her talking on the space and enjoying it. And then afterwards, she's like, that was so fun. And those people really know their stuff. And oh my God, that's cool. And we start talking about it more. And then I just start going, wait a minute, this is really easy. I'm like, these people, they don't know what they've got. And I'm like, what? Maybe I should just host a space, have some people host a space just from this. And I could do it. So I started really just thinking about it. I talked with Kent. I talked with the other few people. I'm like, this would be pretty cool. I'm like, and because everyone in the two spaces, when I pop back in, I'm like, hey, was that fun? Did you guys like that? And they're like, oh my God, Strader, thank you. That was so cool. Blah, blah, blah. And they were so appreciative because they couldn't be there. And so I'm like, I could like be the Spaces correspondent from the event and just start doing it. And so meanwhile, I'm still posting. I'm posting like I'm acting like a social media guru, right? I'm tagging Contact in it, and I'm sending out here we are with this. Here's this person. This is all happening. And so then the media person, and I forget her name. I'm sorry. What's her name? Krys?
Jamie.
Jamie. She starts reposting and liking my media. And I'm like, so people start DMing me. They go, dude, Contact is following you. And they're starting to post your stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, that's nice. So I'm like,
hi, Jamie.
hi, Jamie. Thank you. And you still do. And I love that. So I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, I'm going to do this. So I just call a few people and I said, hey, look, let's do this tomorrow night. I didn't want to do it in the middle of the day because, you know, I wanted to, you know, I had the expensive, you know, a galactic pass, and I had a whole list of everything I wanted to go to. Right. So that next day I talked to a few people to be co-hosts because I'm like, look, I'll host it, but I can't be in there running the show because I've got to be running around trying to grab people. So I need some good co-hosts to kind of keep the ball rolling while I run around and try to grab people and bring them into the space for you guys. So that's kind of how it evolved. And I made the schedule for let's do Friday. And we'll do it. But other people heard me talking about it, whatever. So then on Friday, Kent and other people started running around and just doing sort of random spaces with people, grabbing them and doing interviews and all this. And then Friday, I did my first official space. But the problem was I was trying to host it from my phone. And there was so many people in there, and the Wi-Fi was so clogged. And so my space just kept crashing. And I was like, this isn't going to, I can't host it from my phone and be running all around. So at that point I said, look, I called Logan Black, Logan, who hosts spaces all the time. I said, Logan, will you host a space right now for me? And because it's too unstable for me here, I need the host to have a stable connection and host the space, and then I will run around and I'll just be a speaker, but I won't be a co-host because I can't handle any of the co-hosting duties while I'm running around. So we just did that first, it was a little clunky start. Oh, Ariel.
Sorry, Ariel, I popped you down and I didn't pop you back in.
I didn't know if she logged out or what happened.
No,
okay, good. So it just sort of happened organically. And that first Friday night, it was a little clunky because we kept, crashing. And one of the crashes, so this gets to my first big guest, is I was running around doing the space, and then I had bought the tickets for the buffet, and I'm like, looked at the time, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna miss dinner. And so I tell the guys, I'm like, look, I gotta go grab a meal, keep the ball rolling, and I'm gonna go look for people. And so I go in there and I grab a plate, and then I see Danny Sheehan. I'm like, oh, Danny Sheehan. So I'm like, sneak over, and I kind of wait my turn. I'm sitting there and hanging out. And then I just tell him, hey, here's what I'm doing. He's been in a space, so he knew what they were. And I'm like, I got 150 people in here, and I'd love to hear what what's up with you and whatever. And so Danny is like, yeah, sounds great. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So I start an interview with Danny, but I'm still in the food hall and the reception is bad. And everyone in the space is going, I can't really hear it. It's like every third word. It was like what we call rugging or rubber banding. It was like, and then it crashes. And I'm like, oh, no. And I'm sitting there, he's talking, and I look down and the space is dead. I'm like, oh no, Mr. Sheehan, I'm so sorry, it crashed. Oh no. I'm like, I'm sorry. And he's like, it's okay.
Oh,
and he goes back in to do his thing. So then I go back out. I finally get, that's when I call Logan. I'm like, dude, I cannot host these spaces. They're crashing. I have no stable connection. Please host the space for me. And so we get it back up and running, and then we repopulate the room, and I'm sort of eating my meal, and then it's finally kind of back up. It took about 30, 40 minutes, right? And I'm like, dang. And I was like, did you guys hear anything from Sheehan? They go, nah, it was really bad. It was cutting in and out. I was like, oh, darn. And I was like, well, I'll see if he's still around. So I go back in. He's still in there. And he sees me. He goes, hey, are you back up? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay. And I go, well, let's go outside and we'll get in a better location. So then Danny comes up, and I get my first big guest. And he just, and at that point, I'm just taking my earbuds out and I'm handing them to everybody. And everyone in the space was laughing all weekend about how many people, big name ufologists, were wearing my earbuds.
Oh, how funny.
So I'm like, okay, Danny, here we go. And it was a little clunky. I'm like, all right, put these in your ear, and here we go. And can you hear them? You can hear them. Okay, great. So then I'm just holding the phone, or he's holding it. And now he's just talking to the space. And I'm just sitting there, and people are walking up and trying to talk to him, and he's doing this whole thing. And so that was our first big guest on Friday. And then we just kind of kept rolling. And when people would ask me, they're like, well, how long do you need on this space? How long? And I'm like, I don't know, give us 15, 20 minutes. And they're like, okay, I can do that. But once they got in there, they were having so much fun.
Right.
They just stayed and kept talking. And so Danny went on for quite a while, and he took quite a lot of questions. And there was a few questions that he was annoyed at. So then he blasted a couple people. And at that point, he had both earpods in, so I couldn't hear any questions. So
that's what I was going to ask that. How did that work with like how things are being moderated if you were just kind of giving them your phone?
I had what I call my co-hosts, my ringers. So I had co-hosts and hosts running the room. And then I was sort of the foreign correspondent. So I said, look, here's how it's going to work, guys. You guys talk about whatever you want, do your thing, whatever. But as soon as I come in, I'm going to be like, breaking news, or can you hear me? Test. And that's the cue for everyone else. Be quiet. I don't care what you're talking about. Stop. Because now I've got a guest, and I'm going to introduce them. And I'm going to hand them over to you guys in spaces, and be polite, be nice, ask good questions. Don't talk over each other. We had a good room of moderators, people who really know how to host spaces. So at that point, I'm not the host of the space physically because I just didn't have the bandwidth. So I'm like, I'm just handing them over to you.
I see.
And then they're asking questions. So they're just interacting in the space now, just like we always are. You have your phone, you have your headphones, but we're in a chaotic, wild environment. And I'm hearing, so the funny thing is, like, they're looking at the phone and they're answering the question, but they're looking at me. So they'll hear the question from the audience and they would answer it directly to me. So I'm like, I'm having this great interaction, but I'm having to guess the questions because I can't hear, and I don't know who's asking the questions. So I'm getting half of the, half of it. And then when they would finish up, I'd take the earpods back and I'd say goodbye to them, do all that. And I'd pop back in. I'm like, what'd you guys think? Was that cool? You have fun? Yeah. And so we'd like do a little talk about it. And then I'd be like, all right, have fun. I'm going to go find someone. And that was the thing. There was no like schedule. I'm like, look, this whole thing has to be fluid because I don't know when people are going to want to come on, when they have a moment, who I'm going to run into. I have to just be open and just run around and see what happens. And so that's how the whole thing started. That's the big.
Could you have done it on a laptop and had 2 different headsets plugged in?
Oh, no, like here's the thing. If I had my iPad. So my plan was I'm going to have them logged into my iPad and I'll be on my phone and it's all going to work. The problem, Ariel, is the Wi-Fi there was useless. If you plugged in Wi-Fi,
you can't get on Twitter Spaces on your iPad.
No, you can through a browser.
Through the browser?
Yeah.
Oh, you can. I didn't know that. So
that was my plan. The problem is I didn't have cellular on my iPad. So I could only go through my hotspot or through the through the Wi-Fi, and neither of which had enough bandwidth for that to work. So yes, that was my original plan, but I had to just wing it because I was like, I didn't go there with a bunch of gear thinking I'm going to do a live broadcast.
I see. Okay.
I just went there to have fun and enjoy the conference. And then it just sort of naturally evolved. So everyone kept saying, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? I'm like, I wasn't ready for that. It just happened. It just sort of happened. And but yes, that was my plan is I was going to be like, you'll be on the iPad. I had headphones and everything for it, but the bandwidth I just couldn't do it.
Do you have a favorite guest or moment that you recall?
There's a lot. I mean,
there's okay, but you got to pick one because we can't do them all.
Well, I picked a
few, but I picked a few.
Top 3. Can I say top 3? Let me see top 3. Okay.
Yeah, top 3.
Okay. Dang, you guys put me on and I'm like, because anyone who was a guest who's listening to it, why didn't you choose me as top 3, Strader? I was the best. Okay. Number 1 was Danny Sheehan, just because he was Danny Sheehan, and he kicked off the whole thing on Friday. And he was great, and like he got a couple questions from people that he thought were a little nutty, and he just sort of was like, "That's a stupid question," and I don't know, and I was just like, "Oh my God, Danny, you're killing me." So I love that. So Danny and I created a rapport, and because of that, he ended up, and I'll tell you about the next night when we start on the Saturday night. He ended up inviting me to and I'll have a whole Danny Sheehan paid pictures and stuff. But so Sheehan definitely. Can't even pick a top 3. Okay, so the other one that was just the best is Paul Hynek and I had been, talking a lot, and I was like, and every time he see me, I can handle a good joke, and I love roast humor. So every time he would just roast me, or if I'm in the middle of something with someone else, he'd walk by and like be behind them and like, doing shit. And I'm just like, and I'm trying not to crack up because I'm in the middle of this serious interview, but like he's behind them, like trying to make me laugh and do stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, you're killing me. Stop, please stop. And so I kept saying, dude, I want you in this Spaces. He's like, yeah, we'll do it. And he's like, I'm like, I'm here all weekend. So whenever it works for you, it's fine. I was not trying to schedule with people because I'm like, it's fluid. You just find me. If you're ready to go, I'll pop you in right then, whenever it is. So I think it was Saturday night. He's standing there with Thomas Jane. And I have a great Thomas Jane story. So my daughter on Saturday took the day off. So we did the Friday thing. She went to some stuff. She went to Women of Ufology. She did her whole own thing. She had a great time. And we did the big panel together, which I wanted to talk about that later, but we'll keep going. So, so then she's like, I got to go to Thomas Jane's thing with Steve Bassett. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so we're looking at the schedule. I'm like, oh no, that's an extra. You have to pay extra for that. And I go, I have my pass, but it happens after I'm already doing tonight's broadcast. I'm like, dang, I don't know if I can get you in there, and I don't want to have to pay again. And so she was like, oh, she was bummed out. She's like, I'm not going to be able to go. Right. I'm like, I'm sorry, boo. So she's hanging out at the pool. She's just chilling out. You know, she's like in her, you know, sweaty and like, you know, her towel, and like she's not made up. She's hanging out at the pool, right? And so I'm walking by, and I'm in the middle of the broadcast is starting, the Saturday night broadcast, and I see them, and I'm like, hey, do you guys want to get on the broadcast? Whatever. And they're like, no, we're just about to start our session right now. I'm like, oh yeah, you guys are doing that talk. Oh, I wanted to see that so bad. And Bassett had already been talking to my daughter. She'd been hanging out at the table for 2 days. So he knows who we are. And we're talking, he's like, well, hey, John, you know. And so I said, hey, let me ask you a question, Steve. And Thomas, because he introduced me. He's like, hey, John, do you know Thomas Jane? I'm like, no. He goes, he said, do you know who Thomas Jane is? I'm like, no, I have no idea who he is. Like, he's certainly not Miller from The Expanse or The Punisher or in this. And so Thomas just starts laughing. I'm like, of course I know who he is, Bassett. Come on. I'm not an idiot. Jesus. And I go, but my mother is my daughter, she's going to kill me. I just said that. My daughter is a huge fan of yours. And I go, look, I've got this pass. I could go into your talk, but I'm busy. I'm in the middle of this broadcast. I go, would it be cool? Could my daughter use the pass and go? And then they just look at her and go get her. We'll just bring her in with us. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, hold on to the space. So I call her, and she's like, what? You know, she always answers the phone. What? Goes, what? And I'm like, I need you. Where are you? She's like, well, I'm at the pool. I'm like, I need you to get over here and I forget the name of the room. I need you to get over here right now she goes, well, I can't get in there. And I'm like, no. Steve Bassett and Thomas Jane are right here. And that you're going to walk in with them. They say they will let you in. You can come in with them. And she's like, but Dad, I'm at the pool. I'm not ready. Can I go get ready? I'm like, babe, they're starting in like 5 minutes. I'm like, you don't have time to run upstairs and do anything. Get over here. So she's like, scrambling, trying to get her hair ready. Like, she's got her towel and sunscreen and all the crap. And she comes running up, and they're like, you know, and I'm like, here you go, Lil. This is Thomas Jane. This is Mr. And she's like, oh my God. And so they take her in with her, and she gets to go hang out with them. So she is like over the moon, takes a selfie with him. I have all those pictures I was going to show. And so she's excited. So the next night, the Saturday night, I see Paul and I see Thomas, and they're hanging out and they're just cutting it up. And I walk over, and Paul just goes, you want to do this interview, right? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm like, and he looks over at Thomas. He goes, you want to do this with me? And Thomas, because he didn't really know what we were, he goes, what? Do what with you? And I'm like, well, so I start explaining it to him. So I'm sitting there talking to them, and I show them the phone, and he's like, oh, and he's kind of hemming and hawing. And Paul's like, come on, we'll do it together. It'll be fun. And he goes, I promise, Strader, we got to do this. So I'm like, all right. And so he's like, they wanted to just do it right there. And I'm like, look, if you're both on there, you can't be in the headphones. So we're going to have to do it speaker. So we need to get away from all this chaos and go find a quiet place to do this. So we go for a walk, and they're both cracking jokes. They're like, where are you taking us? Like, it's down some dark alley. And they're like, I don't know. How far are we going, Strader? I'm like, just around the corner.
Wait, so this is Miller from The Expanse? That's his name in real life?
Thomas Jane.
I didn't know his name in real life. What?
He's awesome.
I don't know who he is, Ariel.
Oh my God, you guys. I don't know sci-fi. I don't know.
We just watched The Expanse. I just watched the entire series a couple months ago.
Miller.
So good.
He's the best. I mean, yes, he is awesome. And not only is he awesome, this is why he had a couple presentations. He knows this topic like he's down, and he is a deep thinker, and he's super smart. And so his first presentation was him and Bassett talking about the Hollywood Alliance, you know, because it's this they were one of the main things. So he was talking about how this topic and, you know, movies and aliens and how to bring it to the mainstream through entertainment, right? And so I'm like, yes, I can't wait to get him on. So we're walking all the way around the corner, and I give them the phone, and then they start doing the space, and they are cutting it up. They are loving the questions. They're laughing. They're having all this fun. We're all three laughing. Now, while I'm doing this, I have my friend Kent, and we've met a couple other people. So I have kind of a media team following me around, taking pictures and video and stuff while I'm doing this. So that's how I was able to get all these videos and pictures of us doing this. And so they're sitting there, and then they're just having fun. And the questions are great. And everyone's like, oh, they're so excited in the space to have these guys. And then Joel Hynek just happens to walk up. And they're like, Joel, get over here. And so then Joel comes in. So then it's all four of us. And they're just sitting there handing the phone. And someone would ask a question. They'd all look at each other like, no, this one's for you. No, you take it. No, you take it. And so then they'd hand the phone. No, this is for you, Thomas. And so then he'd be on the phone. And then he'd be on the phone. And that was definitely one of my highlights because we had so much fun. And then after we finally got off the space, we're all walking together and we're all laughing. And they're like that. And Thomas goes, that's the most fun I've had all weekend. And this has been a fun weekend. And I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, the power of spaces. And so, yeah, that was a big one. That was a really big one. And then, of course, the GOAT, Richard Dolan, getting him. Now, he was hard because he was so busy. Yeah. And he had promised me over and over. And so on Saturday night, what happened was they were having, once I got the press pass, and we can go into that story of how I got it or not if you want. But so they ended up giving me the press pass because they were like, we can't have all these random people doing broadcasts at the thing. You know, we have to control.
We don't have to go into detail, but he was official.
So I ended up, going through, talking to different people, explaining them what Spaces was. Dan Harari was the gentleman. And so when I was sitting there at his table and we were having a long conversation and I'm showing him a live space that's happening and this and that, I'm telling him exactly how I would run the space, how we would do the interviews. And I go, and we can do a test right now. We can interview you. These people would be happy. And I forget whose space it was, but I pop in and I'm like, hey guys, I'm here at Contact, blah, blah, blah. And I've got this guy, Dan Harari. He's part of the main thing. And he's Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. And he's interested in these spaces. You guys want to talk to him? And they're like, yes. So I'm like, all right, Dan, here we go. So I gave him the headphones and he was like the test case. And he got in there and he stayed in for like 30, 40 minutes and had so much fun. And he's talking about Hollywood Alliance, talking about Contact, talking about his book. He starts talking about his personal experiences. He's getting all these great questions. And I'm just smiling. I'm like, oh, he's having fun. I'm like, this is great. So afterwards, he was like, that was awesome. I love this. This is great. Here's your press pass. Good to go. So I'm like, nice. So,
by the way, shameless plug, if you want to know more about Daniel Harari, Krys and I did interview him, and we have all of his information on one of our episodes.
He's very cool, and he's super nice, and so he was great. And so that night, I'm like, okay, they're having the awards banquet, right? And I forget the exact name, but they were giving Lifetime Achievement Awards. Russell Targ got an award. George Norrie got awards. And so every table was like hosted, like everyone, like every presenter or like, big name person had their own table. Like, so Dolan had a table, Sheehan had a table. Everyone had their table and their guests, right? I don't know anybody. I don't have a table. So I'm like, what do I do? So, and at that point, Saturday's Space, we had Matt Ford in there. They had just come out about the UAP Disclosure Fund, right?
Right.
And so we were the first media outlet that he was coming on to talk about it, this crazy space. And so I'm like listening to the space. Because one of the things I was telling people is like, you don't have to use my phone and my headphones. If you're on Twitter, here's the space. Just log in from your own phone. I'll tell my people to look for you. And as soon as you pop up, they'll bring you up on stage in the space. And then you guys can dialogue and I don't have to be involved. Right. And so Matt and his other, I can't remember the guy's name, but there was two of them. It was Matt and his partner. So they went in and talked for a long time with the whole crew about the Disclosure Alliance thing. So I'm listening to this And I'm going into that big banquet, and I'm like, all right. So I go get a plate of food, and I'm just kind of standing kind of out of the way with my food. And Danny Sheehan sees me, and he goes, "Hey, come on over." And I'm like, "What?" And he's got to open seats next to him, and he points to his seat, and he goes, "Yeah, come sit right here," because he sees me just kind of standing there by myself. And I'm like, Danny Sheehan just invited me to eat at his table. I'm like, yes. So I walk over, I sit down next to Mr. Sheehan, I pull out one ear, he's talking to me a little, and he goes, "Oh, are you on there right now?" I'm like, "Yeah, that we're having the space right now, but I'm not in." I go, they're and I showed him, I go, "They're interviewing Matt Ford right now." And this is like, "Oh, that's cool." And he's like, "Great." And where I'm sitting, Tracy and Richard Dolan are like right next to me on their table. And so I'm like, "Oh, I'm right behind the Dolans. Maybe I can get them on the space." So when I had a little moment, I tapped them on the shoulder, and they're like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "Hi," because I've already talked to him a couple times at this point, so he knows who I am and what I'm doing. And and he goes, "What, are you doing your thing right now?" And I go, "Yeah." And I go, "They're talking to Matt Ford, but if you and Tracy have a few minutes sometime when this is over," because it was starting to wrap up at that point. He goes, "Sure, yeah, we'll go on." I go, "Okay, great." I go, "Hold on." But one of the things I never wanted to do is, if I had a guest on and they were happy and they were talking, I didn't want to cut them off for any other guest. I didn't. I wanted them to understand that Spaces is a place where you can go deep. You don't you don't have to do a sound bite. You can have a nice long conversation and take questions. So Matt Ford and this other guy, I mean, it was just happening. And so they were standing there like patiently waiting to like get on the thing. And I'm like, and so finally, after about 10 minutes, they're like, "Yeah, John, we're going to have to get going." I'm like, "It's okay. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut off Matt Ford." He goes, "No, me either." He goes, "We'll see you tomorrow. We'll do it. I'm like, "Okay, no problem." So they left. So yeah, so when he finally I think it was Sunday when we finally got him on, Tracy was just like, "Richard, you don't have time for this. We're going from this thing to this thing, and you've only got like 15 minutes and da 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 da." And he goes, "I promised John I was going to do this." So, and at this point, I'm the media person, so he's like, and I want to do it for the festival. And so then we went outside. We sat down outside by the pool in the grass, and then he did about 15, 20 minutes on the thing until she was like, "Let's go." And he was having fun. He was into it. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got to go." And I'm like, "Dude, thank you." He's like, "You are the man." And so that was great. But there's others that were incredible, like Michael Schratt and Ryan Wood. I'm telling you, they stayed on for like 3 hours together. I mean, we were out in the sun hanging out, and they ended. It was dark. Like, they were where we saw you, Krys, when you came in from your CE5 experience. That's where they. So yeah, and so I just had this nice kind of hideaway area where I was far from everything, where I was sort of doing it that last night. And those guys, I mean, Michael Schratt, if I show you the pictures, you'll be blown away. He's doing his whole presentation. He's got like photographs of all of his artwork. And so as he's telling everyone everything on the space, he's holding up the pictures, and I'm literally taking pictures of his pictures as he's doing the presentation and then posting them on the space so people could see what he's talking about. I mean, it was just incredible. And they were having so much fun, and they loved the questions. So they just stayed, and they just kept going and going. And I was like, and there was other people who were like scheduled to come on that were like waiting in the wings that had to bail. Chris Bledsoe, there was quite a few others. And once again, I don't pick and choose. I'm not gonna be like, "Hey, sorry, Michael Schratt, Chris Bledsoe's here. You're done." You know? I couldn't do that. So I was like, I had people waiting, and I'm like, and I'd look at them. I'm like, "I'm sorry." And they were like, "Yeah, sorry, gotta go." And I'm like, "It's okay. Like, bye-bye." And so there were quite a few that were like trying to get on, that had promised me to get on, but they couldn't get on because I never wanted to cut anybody off. And because I really was trying to just show them the power of Spaces, promote them and the event. And that was my mission.
Yeah.
To share it with Spaces, to give them, a rounded, view of what was happening here at the event. And some of those people, I will say this, and this is not a slight to the festival at all, so don't take it that way. They had so many rooms going on at a time, right? And sometimes, I mean, I was like, "Oh my God, I want to go to this, but I want to go to this, and I want to go to that. I can't go to everything." I was like, "Oh, dang it, what do I choose?" And so some of them I was kind of I'll do a little bit here, then I'd run, do a little bit there, because I wanted to hear a little bit of everyone's and take pictures and stuff. And so when there was like a big panel, like a really big one, like other people had in a smaller room, you know, they didn't have a huge crowd. You know, they didn't have a big crowd. When they realized they were like Mark D'Antonio, perfect example. He didn't have a huge crowd in there for his thing, but he did a great presentation. So when he came on the space, he was like, oh, there's like 200 people in here. And I'm like, yeah. And I go, and it'll be up and people can listen to it forever. And so they were so happy to be reaching a large audience. They were like, this is really amazing. They were just amazed. And so they were doing basically their presentation, but in an audio form on the spaces. So yeah, it's incredible. It was incredible. Yeah.
That's really cool. I love that, that they ended up seeing the value and that they kind of blessed it and you know, you were able to share that experience with everyone as we went along. I think I have 3 top favorite moments.
Yeah, tell me.
Well, I already mentioned
Meeting me was one of them. Meeting me was one of them.
Yes, of course, absolutely. And I love I was gonna see, I should have that picture somewhere, but I don't see it.
I was teasing Krys. We would take pictures. She'd take her glasses off. I'm like, no. Your red glasses are your brand. I go, I need the red glasses on.
It's
for the photo.
so true. Every time I wear red now, my husband will go, oh, are you channeling Krys?
Yeah.
No, I kept telling her, I'm like,
Yep.
I need the glasses.
I know.
No one knows who you are without you.
Yep.
That's your branding.
I
Those glasses.
literally cannot believe it's become my brand. And everyone who, like, somebody'd walk up to me and take a picture or whatever, and they're like, oh, you need your glasses.
Yes, I did that 100%.
They're usually on my head, you know, but I'm like, you're right. I've gotta have my brand. So
yes,
that was fun.
yes.
So good.
Otherwise, you're just a rando. You're just some rando.
Oh yeah, that was so funny. But yeah, so that was so having Richard Dolan do the book for Ariel, which by the way is in the mail, so you should be getting it any day.
I love that so much.
That was definitely one of my top moments. And then, my number 2 was.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
What?
Well, I don't.
Well, I know what your number 1 moment is. I'll let you do it.
You do?
Let's wait.
So.
Let's see if she's right.
Oh, I think you do.
Yeah, I do.
What?
It's okay. Just go.
Okay. Just tell us.
All right. So my number 2 ended. Oh God, there's so many moments, but number 2 ended up being the CE5 event.
Right.
And that was here. I'll put up a picture. Why is it not showing?
Yeah, I do want to take some time and show you guys some pictures because I took a lot of pictures. So. Here we go. Oh, you have a picture of your CE5 of that?
Yeah.
Thing? What? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just trying. My dog is biting on a bone down here, so it's hard for me to.
I did put you on the spot, so I don't know if you know this part of it, Ariel. When she came back from this event, we were in a spot where all of the people were walking right by. And I was like, hey, what are you doing? And where are you coming from? And she told me, she goes, oh, we were at the CE5 thing. And I go, well, did you see anything? And she goes, oh, absolutely. And I'm like, well, wait, get on the space and tell everyone on the space. So she literally jumped in on the space and reported what she's just about to tell us and show us. But you reported it live on the space, like right after it happened.
That's right.
Man, John, you are a go-getter. You are relentless with the spaces. Yeah. I mean, I love it, but man.
Once I started, it was like I went from I'm going to have a fun time to now I'm working.
He went into work.
Tell my wife and friend, my daughter, my friend, I'm like, sorry guys, I'm working now. And I'm working. And that's it. And that's when I get into that work mode, because I've been doing radio, live event broadcasting my whole life. So I just like a switch goes on and I just go into that mode. And all I knew is that, like, oh my God, we can get a live report from the CE5 to the spaces when they saw something. Yeah, and Krys was tired. She did not want to get on. I'm like, please, you have to get on. She's like, oh, John, tomorrow. I'm like, no, right now while it's fresh. Your husband's sitting there going like, really?
Everybody, Matt's making fun of you and your new obsession with Twitter. So, with Spaces.
Yeah. This is not a new obsession.
Not a new.
No, it's not new.
It's not new. I'm sorry, Matt. I'm sorry, bro. I have been addicted since the first space I ever went in. Like, oh, you were there after her experience, Matt?
I guess so. I don't even remember who I saw or what happened, but so this was crazy.
Still like, all right, tell us the story.
Because so Eric went with me, and it ended up being number one. Everyone at the event was super generous. I think the whole time. The customer service was amazing.
Who hosted it?
The CE5 was with Michael Mazzola and Serena DC, so the film producer and well, both of them. And so yeah, I mean, it was just
laying there. Nice.
Yeah, we're all laying there. There's probably 200 people maybe out there, and you're out in this beautiful olive garden in the back. And then they had a couple lights. You can see the blue and green light just on the ground, like glowing, set up there. And it was like a meditative experience, essentially. And we and you invite beings. So that's basically what they did. And we're laying there, and I saw a couple of orbs, but I'm used to seeing them. I see them, pretty regularly. So
really,
like distant ones. And
yeah.
So when I see those, I don't it doesn't really shock me. And Eric saw that as well, and another girl next to us noticed it. But then that was fine. Then we're laying there, and all of a sudden you hear a gasp in the crowd, and it's just like, and the air is sucked out of the air. And I looked up, and just like right above my eyes were white lights in a V shape, and it was only about 100 or 200 feet above the ground, and it was large, not like a huge craft. I would say the size, probably 10 or 15 feet wide. And my brain was so confused because, like, what am I looking at? It was just like that. You don't have a filter for what you're looking at. And I said, my brain was trying to figure out what it was. And all I kept seeing in my head, or telling myself in my head, is Phoenix lights. And but I was like, it's not that big. It wasn't like a huge craft. And so then
V-shaped formation, right?
V-shaped formation over the crowd, completely silent. Then as soon as it passes, and it's super fast, like where they go, I don't even know. Like because your brain's registering, and it took time to register. But the very last, as it was finally crossing over, the last light broke off, and so then people were like, "Oh, it's birds," and somebody else said they weren't flapping their wings. If it were birds, it was a long, birds can glide, but it was 10 o'clock at night. They were white.
Don't really fly at night. They
were white light, if they were birds, they were reflecting very brightly. Somebody said bats. Sorry, let me get my dog.
Bats don't fly in a V formation. Let's be clear.
No, bats are very erratic.
Yeah, they're not going to fly in a V formation.
And Ariel, my husband, was like, those were not birds. And he put
you have any pictures of it?
Yeah, no, we didn't get any pictures. Of course not. It was so fast. I took this picture off of the internet. This is what it looked like to me. And this is my husband's diagram with broken straw paper at a restaurant.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was, and I've seen a lot of craft, mostly daytime, or objects or phenomena, whatever you want to call it. But this one was definitely completely unique. It was super low, and then it flew over again. So we had two flyovers. But the
still in a
second
V shape?
time, No, the second time it was also missing one of the pieces. It's almost like it circled around and that piece was off, which is why I think people thought it was a bird because there was one missing. But it was definitely I don't know. And then somebody said drones, of course. There was no sound, there was no blinking, there was no buzzing. I would have heard it. It was low enough. So yeah, that was fun. And then
I remember you guys were buzzing with because everyone else walked by us. So I stopped you, but everyone was like all a buzz about it because they were so excited,
yeah.
Because they, everyone saw it. So yeah, it was really cool. And it was so cool to be there to like get you to tell the space people right away. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was good. It's funny because as much as I've had experiences, it's like I still question this one the most.
Yeah.
But I think it's because immediately people were like, it was birds, and so you just start questioning right away. And then it's like, wait, birds don't make sense. Birds don't fly in V formations in the middle of the night and glow white.
Right.
So that was really interesting. And then I want to wait to tell my favorite story till Ariel comes back on, but I think she had there she is.
Sorry, I'm back. I've been just some issues with my child upstairs.
No, take care of your family first, and if you need to hop off, totally understand. I was gonna say my favorite. So are you gonna guess what my favorite is?
Bledsoe.
Yeah, it's so good.
Okay, tell the story because I haven't even heard the full thing. So yeah, tell the full thing of like what exactly happened. Because she texted me afterwards and was like, oh my goodness, this thing just happened. But it was like very condensed.
Yeah, it was. I walked up to him. I think it was on Wednesday. No one was there. He was at a table and I just walked up to him and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so good to meet you. And then I basically said, look, I see orbs like you do. I've been seeing them, for a couple of years now. And I think all I said is, what's one thing you would say to me? And he said, you touched a piece of heaven. Not everybody gets to do that. And then he looks at me and he says, can I take a picture with you? And he gets tears in his eyes.
Oh,
I was blown. Oh, look! You can probably tell my eyes. I'm like, what? My eyes are all watered up right there.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, what a kind human being. Like he asked.
Yeah, your eyes. You can tell. You're like oh god. Like,
I was just like humbled, so humbled. It was such a special moment. It's such a emotional connection. And
I was gonna say it sounds like a soul connection because I mean you can have soul connections to anybody. It doesn't have to be romantic or anything like that.
Right.
You can just on the quantum level you meet someone and you just have an unexplainable connection to them.
It was so weird, Ariel. I mean, he's so kind and like to see his eyes water up. But the one thing I think before that happened, I forgot there was one thing he asked me. I think he asked me if I was going through anything when I started having the experiences. And I said, yes, I was feeling at, my peaks, my worst, and I was feeling overwhelmed and life, was just in a bad spot. And that's when he looked at me and the tears came in his eyes. And then he said, I touched a piece of heaven, and can I take a picture with you? Oh, wow. I was just blown away. I mean, he was just so kind. So yes, that was my favorite moment of the whole weekend.
And that was Wednesday?
I think that was Wednesday or Thursday. It was early on.
It was early on, yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe the first day because I did text Ariel right away.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's the one photo. I think it's okay to have your glasses up because you need to see that. You need to see your eyes in this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you really can see that you're like, wow, this is amazing. And you know, let me just talk a little bit about Bledsoe because I have pictures of him when I was talking about the main table because that's how he was all weekend. Like that's what made contact so amazing is that everyone was on that floor. Everyone was hanging out. no, I mean, and and he was just so accessible. Like people kept coming up to him, like Matt saying here. I mean, like he just made time for anybody who wanted to talk to him. I mean, I got to talk to him a few times too, but it was more business trying to get him lined up for the thing. I didn't really get to talk experiences, because I would have loved to talk to him about my personal experiences and stuff like that. I think we have a lot of similarities too. So, I would sit there and I took pictures because I would watch people approach him all nervous, and I just watch because I was watching all the time and just see him like notice that people were coming, and he would just invite, hey, what's up? And he would just start interacting with people, and he was just so open to everyone. Linda Moulton Howe, I mean, all these people, they really, I mean, that's the thing about it. I can't, it's hard to explain because
you don't feel like you're like you're at a convention with your peers. You don't feel like you're, even though they to us are celebrity status, and we're just like,
they weren't perturbed by people coming up,
No, they're
didn't
very
feel like
capable,
you were
very
putting them
kind.
out by coming up and talking to them. You know what I mean? And like I said, Dolan would literally keep talking until Tracy would drag him away. Bledsoe had a couple handlers with him also, and he would just sit at the tables, and I'd sit and I'd be close by, but like I don't like to like bother people when they're doing their thing. So, and I just would keep watching him. I'm like, God, he's just, look at him over there. He's got all these people there, and he's just talking to everyone, and he's giving everyone his time, and no one seemed more important than anybody else. And, and that's kind of how most of the people were. It was just like, everyone. Oh, what do you got here? What do you? There's Maddie. There's Corbell. I only got 2 seconds with Corbell. He definitely was like busy. He was working. He had the entourage. He had the film crew. I don't know what they were filming. I don't know if it's part of his next documentary or whatever, but I never got to really approach him and George Knapp. I talked to them for like 2 seconds, but Matt Ford was great. Of course, there's our buddy Matt Monroe. That's awesome. Only one picture with the glasses, though. Dang it.
I know. See, I know. I keep forgetting. I forget that I have to pop them down.
But no, that's great. What else you got? Show me some more. All right, let's see. It's not.
Oh my goodness, you got a lot of pictures.
There's Harari. Wait. Okay. There's Whitley Strieber. Who's the guy in the cowboy hat?
So this guy, the funny story is, I found this book in a used bookstore in San Diego a couple of years ago, and ironically my dog ate the cover off of it, but I have it in my house. I haven't read it yet, and I was walking and I saw him carrying a stack of these books, and I'm like, oh my God, are you the author of this book? And he was and is, obviously.
What's his name?
Let me pop it up so you can see. Alan Steinfeld.
Oh, okay. Was he presenting?
I believe he did do something, which I did not.
And I see you've got Dan Warren over there getting a signed book by Dolan.
Dan Warren, that's what I was talking about earlier.
And then look, you've got.
It
looks like there's Dolan. Like he's got a pizza there. That's what I'm saying. Like
Dan did get to link up with Corbell and Knapp. Did you guys see that on Twitter?
He was
oh my goodness, that was crazy.
That? I know. I'm like, wow. So but that's basically it. I just had a few and then I spent the day, I do have to talk about this because it was amazing. First of all, the women
talk about that. My daughter went to that. She loved that. So you guys tell me about it.
It was great.
It's interesting to me because some of you may know me, but a lot of
Kelly Chase. Okay.
I'm newer to the field. My name is Kelly Chase. I'm the host of the UFO Rabbit Hole podcast.
So you got to hear me yelling in the background. But the Women of Ufology panel was great. Kelly did a great job hosting it. And I was really one of like the people I took away the most that I'm like, wow, I really need to dig into her more is Alexis Brooks. She was one of the women on the panels, and she was fantastic. She's so smart. I want to start listening to her podcast and digging into some of her work, but she really impressed me. And that was, great. And then of course, Katie Page, which I really honestly hadn't heard of before, other than she was going to be on our podcast, but she just got too busy before. So she'll be coming on soon. But that was also one of my top favorite events, because I loved like the case studies. And so her Colorado Ranch case study was just intriguing. It's fascinating. And then of course she's, which I didn't know either, she's on Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, and they covered the case. And so I started watching that when I got home. So that kind of sucked me in, and it's been really good to kind of just like reconnect with some of the data and, see some of the experiences people are having.
Yeah, I'm glad you pulled up this Friday thing. I'm looking at it now, and it's like, so my daughter went to Women of Ufology, and then we did Todd Curtis's lecture, and then she went and heard Travis Walton, and I went to Whitley Strieber, and then she went and did, we all went to the Paranormal Anomalies panel, which was killer. Oh, no, she went to that. I went to Mark D'Antonio when he was talking about that, and like, there's Ross over there, Mello. I didn't get to go to his thing because by that point I was having to get ready to start the broadcast and stuff. And like I said, every day there was just so much good stuff. And this would be a good, segue into the streaming stuff that Contact has done, because like me personally,
I have one question. I have one question first.
Go ahead.
Just quickly, did you get a chance to go to Yvonne Smith's hypnotherapy session? Remember how she told us on her podcast?
Yeah, no, it was not. It was in conflict with one of the other events I went to, but I know. But so I got to meet her, and I got to see her, on the, she was on a couple of panels, actually, not just the Women of Ufology panel, but she was great. But no, I wish I would have gone to that.
She was one of the ones that I had waiting in the wings when Ryan Wood and Schratt went on for 3 hours. She stood there for like 35 minutes waiting. And I kept looking back at them. I'm so sorry. And then she was like, oh, okay, maybe another time. And then, I missed. So there was like, I missed so many people that I like, cause I was like, oh, I didn't get to see their panel, but maybe I can hear them talk in Spaces. And so it was just one of those things. Like there was so much happening. You couldn't do it all. And so like, that is. There's so many of these streams and I'm hoping that I will get a special discount or something, because I want to watch everything again, because there was so many things I didn't get to see, and it was killing me. It was killing me that I couldn't see everything. It was so much happening.
The last,
and then we can segue into talking about the streaming packages.
Let's talk about that before we wrap up, because I really want to let people know how they can access.
Oh, here we go.
The packets. So obviously on contactinthedesert.com is the
Oh, nice. There we go.
They
cool.
are doing these really cool replay packets or packages. And so there's several different ones. There's 5 that I'm going to show you now. I'm going to pop them down so we can see. So
I get encounters, experiencers, and the unknown.
They start at like $99 and up, and I think a lot of them are $99. So you can get like a whole package. Like this one is encounters and experiences and the unknown. So it has relevant.
I like that they're packaged in similar vibes. So if you're really an experiencer person, you can just do all that. Here's one for me, science, technology, the search. I'm like, yes. Like Avi Loeb. I mean, I didn't get to see any of that. Oh
yeah, Avi Loeb, Mitch Randall, Todd Curtis, Robert Grant. There's more on there as well. Package 3 is government disclosure, military encounters, and history. So of course, Richard Nolan, Daniel Sheehan, Paul Hynek, Stephen Bassett.
Nick Pope was on the broadcast. That's right. He was another great one that Nick Pope had fun.
Great.
There's these are my goats. Like this is my world here. We got Dolan, Sheehan, Hynek, like, oh yeah. Oh, what is 3 here? Ancient technology.
I think this is, I put it out of order. Package 5, doesn't matter. Ancient
okay.
technology and visitation from the past. So Anthony Peake, which I saw Physics 101 with him. It was fantastic. One of the best explanations of quantum
Was that
theory.
Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Those 3 101s.
Yep, the 101s. Yep.
Yeah. Are they
Really
going to be in the package for those ones too, for beginners? That I don't know if that's a package because I haven't seen.
I don't know if it's a separate package or not. I think you can also get the whole thing for $400.
Pop up Jamie's latest comment. She clarified something on the.
Hi, Jamie.
Yes.
Oh, this one I love. Let me see. We're closely working on new
Oh,
packages.
new packages, and some will be lower prices.
Oh,
okay.
That's awesome.
Great.
Well, Jamie, you should put those 4 ufology 101s out there for free since they were free in the first place. That'll be like a little taste tester, a little wet your whistle, get people excited. Because I'm telling you, like I said, I did not think I was going to be interested in the 101s. And I mean,
I'm going to listen to that. If they do release those for free, I will absolutely listen to those because that sounds amazing. And I'm really not familiar with Paul Hynek either. So,
oh my God, you will love. He'll be he's going to be he's going to be right in there under Dolan because I had never heard him speak. I knew who he was. I knew he was out there. But like I said, as soon as I saw 101 with Hynek, I wanted to do anything Hynek was doing because I'm like, this guy is awesome.
Well, I'm a huge J. Allen Hynek fan, so.
Well,
him and his brother, they were amazing together. They did a panel together, and it was a really kind of it was one of those it was a separate one. It wasn't one of the main things. It was like an extra package one where the whole thing was kind of a Q&A, and so the audience was very involved, and it was so cool. Oh, it was great.
Well, good news, guys. They are also, so you can buy a package from a specific speaker. So you could have a Richard Dolan package.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Ariel, you got to do Dolan and Hynek.
And they're working on putting the 101s out for free.
Yes.
Yay!
That's great.
That's amazing.
So,
oh, I love it.
I just a couple things I think we should talk about before we wrap up is like number one, the venue was fantastic.
Awesome.
No complaints. I really like, and I know it sounds like I'm just promoting this whole event because I mean I am, but I really had good experiences. I don't do like if I don't have a good experience, I'm not gonna pump it up. But
full disclosure, nobody's getting paid to promote Contact. We promoted it because we believed in it. We thought it was amazing and we wanted to share it with everyone. And that's why I did what I did.
Yeah.
And I was promoting it because I had such a good personal experience talking to Captain Ron on the phone.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to show you guys a few pictures. So let's finish through this and then I'll rip through my stuff as quick as possible before you guys want to end. Because I definitely want to show you a few things. I didn't get to show you very much, and I really do want to show you. If
Go
possible.
ahead. No. Yeah.
Finish
Chris, wrap up what you were saying about the venue, and then were you going to trail off into something else?
Sorry, I got distracted by the comment. No, so the venue, so if you're thinking about going next year, they talked about this on the comments earlier, but definitely book your hotels as soon as they release the date because you want to stay there. It's just number one, they might have things for kids. I saw signs. I didn't see.
There was a whole thing for kids.
But there was like UFO things for kids. There was a couple like day camps and stuff. They have a little beach there. So it could be a family vacation.
Absolutely. There were families.
Yeah. And, but just the pool and all the, things to do. There's an arcade. There's, a 2-lane bowling alley in there. It's really,
oh my God, really? I didn't even know that.
No, yeah.
I was so busy. I did not.
I know. Eric and I really explored. We had fun exploring. So, but anyways, that's it. There. I'll wrap that up. That way you can show a few of your pictures and then we can wrap up because we got. Sorry.
Oh my goodness, that was the quickest hour and a half. This has been so much fun, just getting all the behind the scenes details.
It was fun.
All right, how do we share me back up there? Let me rip through some photos real quick.
I got you right here.
All right, so we're back to the table here, right? All right, let me just make this a little bigger, see if that helps. All right, so we're back. This is still the table, kind of on the floor. Look how excited I am. Like, I am like eating this up. You can see Steve there hanging in his spot, you know. And then, and then I met Courtney Marchesante, another UFO.
I looked for her, and I never connected with her.
So cool. It was great to see her. She was very busy running all around, so she was having fun. And then here's me, Bassett, and Kent, you know, having a good old time. And then there's me and Kent, me and Bassett. Let me rip through. There's Mello over here. Steve John it up here. Let me rip through these real quick. Okay, so there's me and Jimmy.
Yeah, I got to buy Jimmy Church a shot.
The bummer thing about Jimmy is he was only there for one day because he was
bummer.
He had a whole bunch of other events going on, and so I didn't get to really get him on a broadcast or anything because of course the king, he was very busy, and he hung out, had his thing that day, and then was there for the the awards thing, and then he had to bail. He didn't get to hang out the whole weekend. Oh, so here's Steve Bassett. He's on the space right there, so you can see him talking. Funny. This was that third day, so he's on the space, and then this right here is Leela, and she was like, after this, she's like, "What the heck was that?" So that's that story I was telling you, where this is Steve on space, and this is when my wheels started turning. I'm like, oh, this could be good, So that's the first day. So let me go out from there now, and then let's go. Okay, so these are just I called Contact in the Desert. So so I have your thing here, which I loved, this little piece you put together.
Oh,
and then, they're kind of coming in grainy. Like, I'm so sorry, they're not coming in very good here. Oh, and I'm not able to scroll. What's happening? Oh, okay. I got it here. So there I am. So this, I was wearing.
If you're still here, if you can answer this question that we popped up, let us know. Go ahead. Sorry.
So this was a J. Allen Hynek T-shirt that was made by Tupacabra, and as soon as Paul Hynek saw that, he was like, "Oh my God, I need that." And so Tupacabra, if you're listening, I need 2 Hynek shirts, one for each brother, because I promised them, and I don't want to have, we got to make this happen. So then here's my good friend Kent and me, and then here was the buffet. So like the buffet was great. We always had incredible food, and everyone was hanging out in here. So this was a great place to meet people, kind of see what was going on. They had meals 3 times a day. The food was delicious. The servers were just awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone there was so nice. It was just, like you said, you got to stay at the resort, because then it's like, it's just happening.
It's so easy.
Krys, so you were able to stay at the resort even though you booked pretty late in the game. They still had openings.
But I didn't book late in the game. I booked early on, knowing I was going to go. And then we thought we were going to get the media pass, remember? So I had already booked my room. I just hadn't booked my tickets yet. Mm-hmm.
I see. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So there you guys are.
Oh, yeah. Now, made me put my glasses on.
Full disclosure, Strader is giant. Krys is pretty small.
Yeah.
So I had to keep getting down, or it was like her, I'm like, let me get down there for the picture. But then, so I'm like, wait, Krys, we got to have the glasses. I'm like, I can't. Who is this person? I don't know who that is. Oh, there's Krys. I'm like, okay.
Literally.
Now this is Rich Geldrich. This is a guy who I love his work. He was sitting there. This is once again on the floor. So Rich is there. He has a whole group of people, and he's talking. And I mean, this is what was happening everywhere. You'd always see little pockets of people hanging out, talking to people who are presenting,
Mm-hmm.
And then this is my friend Kent holding down the fort here. Now here we are again. I was talking about Chris Bledsoe. Here's Bledsoe hanging out here with a table, and people were just coming up and hanging, and he's just holding court, talking to people, enjoying it. Everyone's just there on the floor. So everyone's enjoying themselves, having a good time. My daughter took these pictures of Travis Walton. She went in and did Travis. So here's a look from above, looking down from the atrium when it was kind of quiet. You have your Titanic stairs here. They kind of look like angel wings. It's interesting. And then like the whole floor there. So that's kind of where it was happening. This is the table again. This was Todd Curtis preparing for one of his presentations, working on it last minute, you know. This is the Skyfire burger that I was enjoying.
That looks good.
This is my daughter and my friend Kent and the other Kent and me. So we were holding court. Look, here's me squatting down to get to my front Krys. I look like,
love it.
It's so embarrassing. So I'm like, oh, I'll just squat down here and try to get close to you there. And then, you know, here we are. Like they had these beautiful banners hanging over the atrium. So it just looked so cool in there. It was really cool. And then, okay, so Thursday, they didn't have the buffet, right? So I was like, where are we going to eat? And then I was like, they have room service. And, you know, I don't do a lot of room service. Strader kind of is a motel guy. So I was like, oh, yeah, let's get some room service going here. I had some eggs Benedict. We had some French toast for my daughter. And we had the whole breakfast up there. So that was so awesome.
That's so cool. I don't think I've ever had room service in my life. That is so cool.
You haven't?
No.
Next year, Ariel. Next year, when you're at Contact, you're gonna be like, "Oh no, I'm not getting up yet. Serve me. Serve me."
I'm a simple Midwestern girl, okay?
I forget you're from Nebraska.
They don't do room service in Nebraska? What?
I mean, no.
Okay, well, at Contact.
They
do room service. And let me tell you,
Fancy.
It was delicious.
Oh.
We're making Matt hungry. Okay, I better move on. So yes, the room service was awesome. I mean, that was amazing. And then I was coming out and I'm like, oh, check it out. Like the room is starting to happen. I'm like, I better get down to my table right here. Yeah. And I better get into my spot, you know. And I had videos, but our videos aren't playing, so I'm not going to play it. But I had a whole view where I did this video of me talking about the resort and how where I was, it seemed like there was a moat protecting us and it was beautiful. So I had some great stuff there. And then this was Paul Hynek when he was doing his early UFO 101 thing, and he had the classic.
I think I have that same picture of him. That's so funny.
Yeah, and the classic photo of his dad with the Welcome UFO People motel. Yep. I love that. And then, of course, you know, here's one of the signs kind of giving you the directions on where all the rooms are. Because I'm telling you, it was like a maze. It was hard to find. They had some way out past the pool, some over here, some over here. So you had to really like know where you were going. It was easy to be like, I don't know where this room is.
Yeah.
And so this is the whole atrium here, looking from the top of the Titanic stairs with the big banners, and then me all excited, going, "Ooh, this is awesome!" And then here's my daughter out at the pool area, you know. Really enjoying the pool, hanging out. And then, of course, the merch table. And I will make a quick comment for you guys for next year. You need more triple XL. Some of us are pretty big. And I was there like right when they opened, and they only had 2 of their like 12 shirts in a triple XL. And I'm like, I want that one. I want that one. They're like, oh, we only have XL. I'm like, an XL on me is like a medium. So I was like, that's not going to work. So next year, you need to save a few bigger ones for the Strader, because I wanted about 7 of those shirts and I could only get 2.
I didn't even get any of those shirts. I did not.
All right. So let me show you some more people. So now here's Paul D'Antonio, and this was him in the space. So this is kind of the rig. So I had my battery pack and the phone, and then he's wearing the ear pods. And then you can see here, there's the people running this, you know, in the space. And we're sitting outside in a quiet little area. And, you know, I'm all excited, and he stayed on for quite a long time, and he was just really enjoying it. So I would just hang out and they would just do their thing. And these were my friends here. Oh, thank you. More sizes. Yay! Just for me. No one else is as big as me. No, there were some big people. I can order them on the website. Well, if they have triple XL, then we'll talk. So here I am just hanging out while Paul's doing his thing. So that was great. And then here he is during his presentation. He's talking about his telescopes because he's an astronomer, and he runs these killer like live streams, which he did a live stream from there, which was amazing. And people could like tune in from all over the world or go in there live while they were actually controlling the telescope that he had in Arizona. And so they were like looking at comets and, all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, he's amazing, this guy. And he has a really cool USO story when he was on a Navy sub and there was a fast mover. So he told that story.
I just heard him at the Ozark Mountain Conference in Arkansas. He was one of the presenters, and he was actually, I think, he and Nick Pope were like my two favorite presenters from that weekend, because his was just jam-packed with like science and information.
100%. So smart. But he's also hilarious.
Yes, he's hilarious. He's so hilarious.
Oh, wow.
So here he is. It shows you, like, he kept playing peekaboo. He was doing this peekaboo behind the thing, like, where are the aliens? Are they hiding? Peekaboo. And he was doing this whole, like, presentation. He was doing this peekaboo thing. Oh, my God, I was laughing so hard. I was like, oh, my God, he is hilarious. So, yeah, he was incredible. All right, let me go to the next one. I'm just going to fly through these real quick. All right, Thomas Rigney. Now, he wasn't presenting, and I don't know if you guys, do you know who Thomas Rigney is?
No.
He is the guy that got a hold of the Wilson Davis notes. And he knew, he's the one that released them to Grant Cameron and to Richard Dolan, because he didn't want to get in trouble, because he had received them through, back channel means from the estate of Edgar Mitchell. And so, like, it was funny because Kent introduced me to him, and he goes, "Hey, John, do you know Thomas Rigney?" And I went, "Rigney," and I immediately was like, "Oh, the Wilson Davis." And he's like, "Oh, you know who I am?" I'm like, "Dude," and I start telling him, and he's like, "Oh, you know your shit." So then we ended up staying and talking for like 3 hours. He was amazing. I wish he would have presented, but yeah, there was a very large Aussie contingency there. A lot of Aussies. Oh, here's your buddy Dan Harari.
Yeah.
So here he is. This is him on the space. I wish I could blow these pictures up, but I can't. So this is him doing the space and like learning. He was like, "Oh, this is really cool." He was like, "This is cool." And so that's how I got my media pass. Look how excited I am. I was like, "I got a media pass." But that was my final step, talking to Dan. And once he enjoyed a space himself, he was like, "Okay, this is cool. We can do this."
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So here we are. This is when I was eating with Danny Sheehan. He was getting up, getting ready. There's the remains of my plate. Here I am right next to the Dolans. Yeah, I'm like, getting poor Richard's bald head. Sorry, Rich. I post that. And then here's me and Danny sitting together while I'm eating. So he's saying hello. This was me before I sat down. So I was kind of just lurking, I was just like, the whole room is there. Everyone's having fun. And then Danny's like, "Yeah, come on over." I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was amazing. Cool. And so they were doing the awards. There's George Norrie. I didn't get a shot of Russell Targ. And then he was promoting his Citizens for Disclosure. And they had these were placed around. So if you scanned this thing in, put your information, then it would like immediately send letters to your representative. So that was a huge thing. He was plugging that. And then there's me and Danny when we were getting ready to do the space for the second time after it had crashed. So there's me and Danny. Of course, we had Nick Pope, and Pope was out. We started inside and we couldn't do it. So then we went outside, and he was just having a great old time. And so here we are in the inside, and I'm like, it's not working. He can't hear. And I was having technical difficulties. So then we went outside. He was a little hammered, I think. He's got his wine there. He was a little buzzed, but he was having fun, and he was having fun with the questions. Okay, here we go. Thomas Jane. So here is my daughter's absolute favorite part of the entire thing was Thomas Jane. So he did a couple different speeches, and they were all incredible. Here we are hanging out afterwards. After we did the space, we're all cutting it up, and actually his shirt was half unbuttoned, and we were like belly bunking here.
I noticed that.
If I was able to zoom in,
what is happening?
Our flesh was touching. My belly, my giant belly was rubbing up against Thomas Jane's ripped abs. So, God. Just for all you ladies out there, sorry.
In case any.
It was hilarious. So we were laughing. Strader, your belly's touching me. I'm like, ooh. And so, yeah, we were having a lot of fun. I wish I could zoom these in bigger. And then here they are listening.
Yes, Jamie. Yes, I want to come next year. I got to make it happen. I have to make it happen.
Yes.
Also, I want to present next year. I want to do a whole presentation just on spaces and UFO Twitter, front lines of disclosure. I'm pitching it now. But here we are. So this is them in the space. One of my highlights. They were having so much fun. You can look at Paul Hynek's face. Like, okay, so right there, they're listening to questions. And then they're looking at each other like, you answer this one. No, you answer that one. And they're cracking each other up. Look how happy Paul is. He kept laughing. They were having so much fun cutting it up, enjoying the spaces. Here they are having fun. So yeah, that was incredible. And then we go to the next one here. Oh, so of course, the wonderful and amazing Tracy Dolan. My daughter went in and heard her whole thing. I could only do a little bit of it because I had to run out and do other things. But, she is amazing. And when there was this is the panel. So here's the one comment I want to have to the festival themselves. These panels were so incredible. They were too short. Like you put
it's hard.
Steve,
yeah.
Well, here's the problem. You have this incredible panel. You have this incredible panel, but you have, as the host, you have Steve Bassett. Then you have Danny Sheehan and Richard Dolan, all of which, as soon as you ask them a single question, you're getting a 25-minute answer.
Yep. I was going to say they can monologue like nobody's business.
And everyone else was like up there going, God, I hope we don't run out of time so someone will ask me a question. And those guys were just going, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, like, I felt bad because I wanted to. I stood up. I was standing there with my hand up like a schoolboy because Mello Ross was in there and he only got like about 2 minutes to talk about what he was doing. And I was like literally trying to like get into Sheehan's brain and be like, Sheehan, or not Sheehan, Bassett. I'm like, I'm standing there with my hand up like, please call on me, because I just wanted to ask Mello a question. So he would get a chance to talk because everyone mostly was asking questions to the legends. And you have Doobie up there and nobody in the room had any idea who he was. And I was like, I just want to get him one question so he can get his chance. And I never got a chance to do it. And so I missed out. So I felt bad for them because, those three guys, they needed a panel all by themselves because, like I said, you ask them one question and
I wonder if to solve that problem, they could talk to, whoever is hosting or moderating and kind of have an audience plant. So then they know that there's someone that is going to ask one of the other people a question. I don't know. It's kind of a crazy idea, but it would just be nice to somehow guarantee that those people who are lesser known do have a chance to talk because that's such a cringe. Like you want them to have their moment too.
I felt bad. I was like, oh, bro. And I talked to him right afterwards. I'm like, dude, he goes, I saw you standing there with your hand up. I'm like, yeah, I was desperately hoping you would call on me so I could get you a question. I was like, I want to feed you a question just so all these people in the room will hear what you're doing and maybe go to your thing. Right. Because it was before he did his individual presentation. And I was like, oh, I couldn't get it in because everyone wants to ask Sheehan or Dolan. Right. Or, you know what I mean? And those guys, when they're on a panel, they're going to dominate. And the host, who's supposed to just field questions and be really quick, that's Steve Bassett. So he would literally at times go, I'll field this question. I'll answer this one. And then he'd start going on. I'm like, Bassett, we hear you. You talk enough. Like, let other people talk. So that's my only complaint about that. It was just, I just felt like there's just not enough time for these guys. But he was still very proud to even be on the stage with all those legends. So that was amazing.
That's true.
All right. So let me go to the next one here. I have a couple of ones if you'll share with me here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So here's Richard Geldrich. And if you don't know who Richard is, this guy uses AI and he has basically collated like news stories from every newspaper in the country and all these, and what he's done is he's taken data and information from like every source available, huge, and just funnels it all into the computer and then has the AI put it all together and starts making all these connections. Like, everyone knows what happened at Roswell, but did you know that all around at all these other areas over the days leading up, there was all these other sightings and all this other stuff. And so his presentation, and I'll just show you a couple of his slides. I mean, it was amazing. And so when you want to look at the history of how this all, you know, what was happening and connecting all these dots that, you know, people have never really made these connections. And his thing was incredible. And I'm trying to get him in Spaces so bad, but he's someone I've been following for a long time. And he's just a data wonk, data nerd. And I'm telling you, I loved it.
Really cool.
It was so amazing. So, okay, I know we got to fly, so I'm going to do this quick. All right. Oh, Paul and Joel Hynek. So here's the Hynek brothers together. Gosh, I wish it was better quality because it's only thumbnails. They're all very high quality, but you can see here he's talking about hanging with Tyson and, you know, but Tyson's Tyson. And then they did one of the last interviews with their father, they played a clip from that. And so at one point you had all three Hyneks on the stage, which was amazing. And they are so good together because, you know, Paul is like, they kind of reminded me, well, I don't want to say the Smothers Brothers, you guys, that's too old for most of you people, but you have a straight man and you have the funny man.
My dad was in the Marines with the Smothers Brothers.
So they kind of remind me of that because Joel is very quick-witted, but very dry. And he's like the straight man. And then Paul is just hysterical, right? So they together were hilarious. And you could see like they had microphones. And so that whole thing was interactive. People were asking questions and, you know, and they have this, Joel had a checklist. You can't read it. Oh, these thumbnails are the worst. I'm so sorry. I wish I could have got these pictures working. I just didn't. I just ran out of time. But, and then here I am wearing the J. Allen Hynek shirt, which was amazing. So that was if anyone who gets to watch back, this was a cool one. And then of course our buddy Darcy Weir was there. He was not presenting. He was really exhausted, but he did jump in on the space. So I had a couple pictures of Darcy on the space. That was fun. And then, the Omicron Commonwealth. Did you see them, Krys?
I am assuming, yes, I did. I was going to tell you, I am assuming I did. I saw them at in Phoenix and Mesa, and I wasn't sure what they were or who they were.
I was fascinated because anything bizarro, I get sucked in. And when they walked in the first day on Friday, they had two different uniforms. They had these black uniforms and they had these white uniforms. Now they were not presenters or whatever, but they appear to be like galactic. They say they're Galactic Federation people and they're ex-DOD. And I don't know, they're very cryptic and weird. But I was just, you know, I'm fascinated by everything. So I put them on the space and I interviewed them. And I took pictures while we were doing it. The lady was saying during the interview that there was aliens walking amongst us. And I said, well, have you seen any here at the festival? She goes, oh, I think so. And then I pointed to this guy. I'm like, is he one? I'm like, I'm cracking jokes. I couldn't help it. I'm like, if anyone looks like they're wearing a skin suit, it's this guy. He was tripping me out. But yeah, so these are them. And I had to include them, but I couldn't help it. And I told them, I'll join the call. But only if I get a ride in the spaceship. I go, you get me a ride in the spaceship. I'll join up, but I'm not wearing these outfits. I'm sorry. I'm not wearing the suit. So that was that.
Oh my gosh, stop.
I always try to be funny. And so I was cutting it up with them. And I
hope they had a sense of humor about it.
I was thinking the same thing. Of course.
I didn't think he was a human. And when she said, yes, I think there's a few here. And I go, this guy? And I pointed right to him. Everyone cracked up and even he smiled. So when he smiled, I'm like, oh, he does have human emotions.
Oh, gosh.
He's alive.
Poor
Right. And then, of course, we had my buddy Daniel Jones. I don't know if you know Daniel. He's amazing.
My cheeks hurt from smiling so much, guys.
It was so fun. Let me. So he was.
I do have to run in about 60 seconds.
I'm almost done. I'm just going to whip through these. Okay. My girl. Here's my girl, Lily. Amazing. My baby daughter. Here she is with Thomas Jane after the pool. Here she is hanging out in, I think this was Tracy's thing. And here she is out at the pool. Okay. Let me go quickly more. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Richard Dolan during the spaces. So he's on the space. And I am like happy as a clam. I am so excited.
Look at his perfect face, though, guys.
He is. He's handsome. He's handsome.
He really is. I didn't notice until you like see him, and it's just that warm, genuine.
You know why Tracy's with him.
It's not perfect. It's perfect.
They are like
They're a
the
perfect
power
couple.
couple. They're
Yeah,
so
they're
amazing. So he was having fun, but yeah, you can tell Strader is very excited to be hanging out with Dolan. This is my friend Kent taking all these pictures of me with Dolan. But yeah, Richard was having fun. We didn't have a lot of time with him, but he was sitting out there. You know, here I am listening intently, contemplating. At this point, I figured out, I give them one with the microphone and I can have the other.
Right.
Now I can hear. So yeah, day one, I didn't know what was happening. But by day two, I was only giving him the one headset. So that's me and Dolan as he's on the space. We're just sitting
John,
out there.
I think Ariel has to wrap up.
I'm
has
sorry.
You
Okay,
guys,
all right.
you guys are free to keep going. Please don't end on account of me. I just have to help with bedtime. But Contact in the Desert, Jamie, what you guys are doing is amazing. You truly bring just such an amazing event together. You bring people from all over the world, all over the US, in a way that you're just able to connect in person. And that's just so special. That can't ever be replicated online. Online's great, but you can't, you can only go so far. And so this event, this space for people to connect, it's just amazing. So thank you for inviting me. Tell Captain Ron, thank you for inviting me. And I really hope I can make it happen for next year.
Thank you. It was so great to be on here with you. Go be a good
John.
mother.
I really appreciate you coming on and sharing everything.
My pleasure.
All your adventures and
so fun. Thank you guys. Absolutely. I'm sorry to the audience that I did not have all my clips ready.
It's okay. It totally was great, and hearing your stories was great. So and the pictures, you got an amazing set of pictures. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate all of you guys for being here. If you already follow us on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. If you don't follow us, please subscribe. And also, a lot of you are on here. I see a lot of live streaming from Twitter.
Do you want to do a little teaser for what we have coming up this summer real quick?
Yes, if I can remember. I have a lot.
Yeah, girl.
Real quick, we have a huge...
Don't you have that graphic that has all the list? Pull that graphic up. Yeah.
I was just going to say I can try and pull that.
Krys has just been a busy bee booking guests for our show. And we've just been so blessed to have so many amazing guests so far. Really big names that we never thought. We had Steve Bassett on and he was amazing. And we're just on a roll and we're just having so much fun. And we just appreciate everybody who follows us and supports us. And please, we love you. You have been encouraging me since the beginning. So we just appreciate you, and we appreciate everyone who shares our links and just everything. It all makes such a difference to us. It doesn't seem like a big deal to press, reshare or repost or whatever, but to us, it's huge and it means so much to us.
Well, you guys are amazing. I am just so honored to have been here with you and to be interesting enough to share a story with you guys. So I thank you guys, especially. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm always going to repost your stuff. And hopefully when I have some new stuff coming out, you'll bring me back on and we can talk about stuff that I'm really working on.
Well, and we'd love to have you back on to hear about your experiences too. And, you have stories and you have a whole past with the UFO phenomenon and the UFO research. And we'd love to dive into that sometime.
Anytime, you guys, I'm yours. So
Krys, you're muted, babe.
I said I can't pull up that thing right now and my dogs are going to start going crazy. So
okay. Do you remember?
No worries. Just know that we have go ahead.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say is we have a huge summer lineup. We have Randall Nickerson coming on.
Oh, God,
we have Katie Page. We have we just had John. My mind is drawing a blank. We have who else? We have 6 or 7 shows. Oh, we have Joseph from Enigma Files coming on.
We have Dove, new community member who has taken UFO Twitter by storm with her love of reading and her love of research. We're going to have Dove on.
great researcher. Incredible. Very smart.
In Arizona case. So I'm really excited about that, to have a UFO Twitter personality coming on and talking.
Yep.
And it's great to bring our community up and let them share what they've been researching. So that's it. I'll wrap there because my dogs are gonna go nuts.
So all right, guys. Talk to you
have been
later.
amazing. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you
Bye.
soon. Bye, everyone.